My people, hello, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my review of the Latitude 64 Dagger. These are the Ricky Wysocki two-time world champion daggers. I have a couple different pairs of them here. These are more for throwers for me, and these are my main putters. Spoiler alert, I guess that's a little early to spill the beans on that, but if you guys follow the channel, you would have known already because I told you about this in my recent In the Bag videos. But the Dagger is an interesting one. It is a large, kind of big diameter, deep, big bead putter, and all of those attributes were stuff that I never really cared for. And even reviewing over 300 discs here on the channel, somehow the putter that, is associated with my favorite player of all time, and one of the companies that I've thrown probably more plastic from than just about anybody at this point, in my own bag and stuff, in Latitude 64, like, how did these slip through the cracks? I never reviewed them, and I never really tested them. And I think it was just because I thought I didn't like deep dish putters, and I never really connected with a true beaded putter, like a KC AVR type beaded putter. Never really had any kind of affinity for those type of discs. They never were in my bag. Closest it got was the Link that I carried for a while as a thrower, but that's about it. These have been working out really well for me, and it really surprised me when I first started testing them. So I'll give you the rundown real quick. I reached out to DD, my boy Anthony out there in Emporia, and asked him for some daggers because they weren't represented in the playlist, and I thought that was silly. And I was really just doing this to round out the playlist a little more and have another, established disc here for you guys to reference if you're interested in it, as I've been trying to build this database for over a decade now. He was kind enough to send me these two beautiful kind of green swirlies here, and I just started putting with them. My putting has been really wacky over the last couple years, and I haven't really found anything that I really connected with. I've been drifting around trying different putters, so why not try those out? And they worked out so well that I ended up curious about throwing them. And what's funny about this particular disc and this particular review is, even after testing all these discs over all these years and all the work that I've put into this thing, I was surprised a couple of different ways significantly during this review. Mostly that I liked a firm, deep dish beaded putter. Like these look like very similar to like old KC AVR type putters, but they have a way more grip. They're not slippery. We'll get to that in a second. But also, I was shocked at how much I like to throw these off the tee and on approaches as well. They're awesome flyers backhand. Nobody talks about throwing these things backhand, and I'm really digging it. So let's circle back here and start from the beginning. We're going to take a look at what we got here. So you saw these. I believe these are zero hard burst. That's what they feel like to me. They just feel like, they feel like zero hard burst. Definitely not medium, definitely not soft. But I don't think they're like the Royal Sense plastic. These might be considered Royal Sense. I'm not 100% sure, guys. I got to be honest. They're not marked, and I really don't know, and I don't notice a huge difference. These seem to be a bit more stable. That's about it. But it could just be a difference in the run or whatever. Taking a look at it here, you can see all along, Ricky Wysocki, two-time world champ Dagger, 2, 5, 0, and 1 are the flight numbers on this thing. And it really does have a very noticeably slow, and it has a lot of glide. I would probably, arguably, maybe even call it a 1. Like, this thing is so slow, and it spins slow through the air. Like, there are times where I'm tapping in a short putt, and it barely looks like it does like a full revolution before it's in the chains. They just spin really slow, and it's very obvious and noticeable for me when I started testing them. But what was also obvious and noticeable is that I was connecting with a lot of putts. They just hold the line really well. So let's take a closer look at this particular one, since it's not inked, and get into the actual shape and the design. I showed it to you a little bit already, but they're all around max weight. I think this one's 173, so it could be a little bit heavier, but whatever, it's fine. And here it is. The rim profile, you can see the depth, you can see the size of the bead, all that stuff. And I think what ends up happening for me, you guys know I have big hands. Typically, I don't mind, shallower discs or flatter discs or any of that kind of stuff. Low profile discs, rather. It's never really a problem for me with my hands the size they are. But when I'm putting, it just fills out my hand. So there's no real guesswork as to where my fingers are going to land on this disc because of the size of it. Like, my finger just naturally hits that bead, and it's got the width there and the depth of the rim where it just kind of fills my hand up, and it's just really easy kind of automatic in terms of the way I grab it. And I think maybe that was part of the issue with using keystones, magnets, different things, is that, you know, I'm adjusting my grip and I'm thinking about a lot of different things. This disc, I can pretty much just throw it in my hand and you can see, like, it's ready to go. So let's take a look at it next to a couple other options before we ramble too much. One being the Ev7 Penrose. Shout out to Ev7. They sent me a pair of Penroses. They sent me actually 2 pairs of Penroses, and they also sent me their disc, the Telos, which I have not reviewed yet. I'm way behind on things, the weather and all the stuff. You guys get it. Man, I'm buried. I have so many discs in the inventory to test and to review and to show off, so I'm happy to show off a little bit of extra Ev7 in this video. But Penrose, very interesting. Got, you know, the depth and stuff isn't hugely different to my eye, but the bead is much different. See, it's like a much more pointed, smaller bead on the Penrose. Great disc, more stable, less glide in terms of the flight. Another disc I want to show you guys real quick was the Maiden. Previously reviewed, and the Maiden is another beaded putter, but it's much lower profile, which I hope to be able to represent. See, yeah, that gives you a good idea of the difference in the sizes there in terms of how big and deep the Dagger is. You know, it's not like enormous, but it's definitely noticeable. Shout out once again to DD for sending me this beautiful Matty O Tournament X Maiden. If you guys are interested, I'm sure those are still available. Nice throwing putter as well. Dagger flight numbers, I think, are pretty much dead on. It's got a pretty flat top. All this plastic is grippy and firm. There's no real flexibility to it at all, which is fine. I wouldn't mind a softer one maybe for certain instances, but it hasn't been a problem either. Also, they're so big and slow, I haven't had a lot of rollaways. You know, they kind of just land and seem to stay where they land for my putting, but I don't typically have a lot of problems with that in general. You know, I make a lot of my shorter putts, thankfully, and my longer putts, I'm really good at getting them to land and not go too far out of the way. So, took a look at it next to some other options. We talked about it unto itself. We looked at the rim profile, the bead, the plastic, etc., and let's take a look at the rest of the flight footage for this thing. Being surprised by the fact that I liked it as a putter was more from a feel perspective than the flight. Even then, I just can't deny that I'm connecting with putts with this thing, and more so than I expected to, by a wide margin, in fact. Like, right away, first couple rounds, I'm just connecting with this thing. It's kind of automatic. It holds really straight, has nice stability on longer putts, allowing me to kind of pop it up there higher, play for a little bit of fade at the end of the flight, which is always nice for me in my longer putts, and go for it putts and stuff like that outside the circle. I've knocked in a number of Circle 2 putts since I started using them as well. Kind of stretching out those longer putts, utilizing that extra glide and the slow, floaty flight of this thing. But once again, the other thing that surprised me is that these things fly really nice on approach and off the tee. They're very nice and straight stable for me. They have a little bit of fade at the end of the flight, but not much. And that's why I've been carrying one of the green burst ones as my putter, maybe 2 if I'm carrying a larger bag just for putting exclusively. And then I have one of these white and blue ones for throwing, just because it's a little bit easier, much easier color to see and keep track of out there in the woods. But man, just holds a really nice, beautiful straight line with a slight fade. I can throw it on forehand approaches, forehand approach turnovers. I've had a couple of sick, like, kind of reach out, forehand turnover approach shots with this thing to get up and down, and it just holds the stability really well. It seems to be pretty torque resistant. Like, it's not a very wobbly flyer for me. It comes out of the hand and flies on a smooth line. But in putting, it's really funny how obvious it is that it's slow, it spins slow, and it has a lot of glide. So that's my review on the Dagger. You know, it's probably not very surprising for a lot of people. You know, we've seen what Ricky Wysocki has done with these over the course of his career using them, and he's been extremely effective. He's inarguably been the best player in the world at various times using this disc last year, 2016, 2017, back before he actually switched away from Latitude in the first place. But yeah, it's cool to have him back to using them, and I'm happy to use them myself, and they're working out really well. Very surprising just how solid they are as a backhand flyer, because I never hear anybody talking about using them for that. So if you are a Dagger fan, or if you like beaded putters, this will definitely be one to check out. If you're already using the Dagger for putting, throw it off the tee a little bit. It might surprise you if you've never tried that. That is my review on the Latitude 64 Dagger. Thank you to Dynamic Discs for their continued support. Go to dynamicdiscs.com to order these if you want to try them out. They have a lot of different plastic types available, of course. They have soft, medium, hard, burst, different colors, and all that kind of stuff available. I wonder if we'll ever see opto daggers. That might be something that I would be interested in. But that is it. Thank you very much for all of your support, my subscribers, my fans, viewers, my Patreon support team. You guys are my rock. I appreciate you all very much. The channel's in a weird spot, but I know that there is still a core of people out there who have my back and love and support this channel, and it means the world to me. I'll talk to you all very, very soon. Cheers.